On August 29, 2005, Hurricane Katrina swept through the New Orleans area, leaving thousands in need of rescue. Over the next few days, the U.S. Coast Guard rescued more than 33,500 people from the floodwaters. Almost 15 years later, I asked 3 of them to tell me their stories.
I think the scale of it was probably more than I'd ever thought to witness. It went from, we need to help and save all these people, to, I feel like I'm shutting the lights off on a major city. You know what I mean? To see a city of millions of people that was just empty.
Before the storm hit, Captain Frank Paskowich, sector commander of New Orleans, had to prepare by moving people and equipment out of the way so that they would be ready for deployment after the storm.
Where I had a morale party on the Friday before it hit, and it was just beautiful here, and my planning officer came up to me and said, Captain, we've got a problem. The trajectory's changed, and it's now going to be a Cat 5 potentially, and New Orleans is in the crosshairs. Because of the size of the storm, we wanted to set up our command post at an alternate site out of harm's way, and we did that in Alexandria, Louisiana. Move our equipment to safe havens so that it would be safe and that they could surge back in, as well as our people, once the storm passed.
The first days after the storm were hectic, as the Coast Guard scrambled to relocate assets to the affected area.
2 days were pretty chaotic, because it was just pretty much the people stationed there, and there was just a lot of things going on. So typically we would come in whenever you could come in. They called me up, issued me emergency orders, and I flew into Houston, Texas on the 3rd. I don't know, it might have been 17 hours to get to Baton Rouge, which is where they had a very basic command post set up. Mainly it was just a collection of trailers and tents and whatever else to keep the rain off. And then that's kind of where I was.
The Coast Guard began flying rescue sorties as soon as conditions allowed. Crews flew the maximum amount allowed, shift after shift, to rescue as many people as possible.
So it is pitch black. You can't see anything. And then all of a sudden you just see flashlights lighting up all around you. So it was really tricky. So it was an individual, and he was in the water on his front porch, basically, wherever it was. But we couldn't get to him to hoist him because there was power lines running right there in front of his house. So I said, just put me in the water, and I'll swim over there and get him, and I'll swim him back out away from the power line. So because we were doing urban rescues, I didn't have all my equipment like normal. And all he had with him was his medicine. And he said, I need more medicine. I haven't had food. I'm a diabetic. And I said, okay, well, we'll get you out of here. The next thing you know, I kick something, and I stand up, and I'm standing on the roof of a car. And so I go across the roof of the car, and then I keep swimming out, and then they lowered the hook once we got past the other side of the power lines and lifted him up out of the water and got him.
While many of the Coast Guard's men and women were involved in rescue operations, others performed crucial work in the flooded Mississippi River, setting out buoys, transferring oil to safer tanks, and putting out barge fires. The Mississippi has 2 shipping seasons, oil and grain. Luckily for those responding to the fires, it was grain season.
The problem with the grain barges was that they all got wet. And sometimes the grain barge would just be sitting there on the side of the river and would just blow up in a flame. We'd get a call on the sat phone. They'd say, hey, can you go look at this fire on the side of the river and just verify that it's not like chemicals or anything like that. So we had about 7 or 8 barges catch fire on us that we had to go investigate pretty quick.
In any operation this large, there are bound to be logistical challenges. Here, the Coast Guard had to communicate across a vast area where the normal communications grid was down.
Search and rescue was very challenging because you had no infrastructure, you had no communications, you had no street signs, you had no grid. You basically had to send people down collaborate with multiple agencies, local, state, and federal, and have someone set that up and try to organize it properly. So you're kind of doing things the old-fashioned way. Ham radios we used, old-fashioned flying and face-to-face. So, you needed redundant communication systems. So that was big. And I couldn't communicate with them, so basically those people who were out on scene kind of had to do on-scene initiative for, carrying out that particular mission.
As the days passed, rescue swimmers had to deal with more and more challenges. Hurricane victims were desperate and running out of patience. By day 4, the Coast Guard had taken the precaution of sending swimmers out in tandem as reports of threats and violence toward rescue swimmers had increased.
So I was doing a large group of people on a hotel. Went in, and when I went in, there was just people lined in the stairway. And my line, and I think most rescue swimmer lines, are the same. It's women and children first, and then elderly, sick, injured next, before healthy men. And a guy came up and was kind of pushing his way. I saw him come push his way through the door and in front of people. And he came over to me while there wasn't a helicopter around, and he lifted up his shirt and had a gun. I said, "There's still some women and children, but this guy feels that he is next, and he is demanding that he goes next. He has a gun. I will go back out there, and you guys can handle this. I will either leave, or you can continue to send women and children out." And I walked out the door, and the next person that came out the door was a woman and a child.
Coast Guard rescue swimmers performed admirably in the aftermath of Katrina, rescuing thousands of people by air. But sometimes rescue proved impossible.
I'm looking for this one person left. And she was down a level, so I could just stick my head down and I could see her and talk to her. A couple different things that hindered us from rescuing her. Our hoist is only rated for 600 pounds, which she probably would have been pushing that. And we don't have a strap or any sort of device that I could have got her around her or in to hoist her. Not to mention she was down a level, so I would have had to run the hoist down through a building down to her, which is totally not going to happen. That's too dangerous for the helicopter. And there was no way she was going to get to the roof, which is where I needed to do the rescue. And that was hard for me. I've never left anybody before.
Sometimes the horrors of Katrina weren't what was happening, but what had happened. The death and decay left a profound impression on those who witnessed it.
In a couple of the houses that we found, the bodies that we found inside, I guess I was expecting, dehydration or drowning, and I guess in one of the buildings we found the bodies in, they were up in the attic, so we could smell them, but we couldn't find them. When we went up in the attic, it looked like they'd actually died of snake bites, and that was pretty horrifying to see. People who'd lived and been bitten a couple dozen times by poisonous snakes. The snakes, which had, as the water came up, the snakes were looking for a place to hide too. So invariably, these people had crawled up into the top of their house, and these snakes had crawled up into the top of their house, and it didn't go well for either of them.
What these Coast Guards men and women in Katrina saw affected their emotions both then and now.
My family still talks about it, about how I was by day 5. They just said that I would yell a lot, and I was just very uptight, anxious. For me, I just would say I was on edge.
The effects didn't end when the cleanup did either.
That was about as close to post-apocalypse as I'd ever come on that kind of scale. So yeah, I would say I still have traumatic thoughts about what I saw down there. So yeah.
Almost 15 years later, the response to Hurricane Katrina is lauded as one of the finest moments in Coast Guard history. For some rescuers, however, it's who they couldn't save that haunts them.
But yeah, that one still stands out to me because I think about her. When anytime anybody asks me about Katrina, I always think about her, and I always wonder what happened. It was something to be. I don't want to use the word praise, but it's something to be proud of. I mean, what we did and what we accomplished in those few days was nothing short of miraculous.